Chapter 8. Hollywood SIGN. Traditional Journal. Vigil in Malibu and Police Siege. The world awoke to a new language. Sirens. Overlapping voices, real-time banners. The networks had been on alert since the earliest hours of dawn, but the traditional press, with its cold authority, arrived bearing the weight that only silent truths can carry. We interrupt our programming for urgent updates on the disappearance of Americana, the anchor announced, with a grave voice. The young immigrant vanished from the courtroom after being led away by a woman with green hair who introduced herself as the Chancellor of Portals and claimed to represent the THE-IMPERIUM bunker. As of now, there is no official confirmation of her whereabouts. In the corner of the screen, the live images showed the house where Americana had lived in Malibu. It was surrounded not by police tapes or barriers, but by two distinct armies, one of faith and one of fury. We're broadcasting live from outside the residence of the missing girl, the reporter said, nearly swallowed by the roar of the helicopter. On the left side of the street, dozens of supporters have gathered in a vigil. They're dressed in white, holding candles and singing in unison. Many believe Americana was chosen by higher forces. The camera cut to the emotional face of an elderly woman. Her eyes were closed, and her lips moved in a whispered prayer. "She's a miracle," the woman said through tears. "A hope we didn't even know existed." On the other side, the reporter continued, the atmosphere is one of political tension. Protesters opposed to the girl's presence in the country are holding signs with messages such as "Go back to your country." A real American deserved the spot, and equality is not privilege. The zoom captured a man in a red cap raising a megaphone. This is an insult to the Constitution. $1 billion for an invader? This is money laundering. Police officers in tactical gear watched from a distance, discreet yet alert. At every corner, drones hovered silently over the perimeter of the property. The house seemed to breathe fear. There is still no confirmation that Americana has returned to the location, the reporter stated. According to sources close to the matter, Mrs. Karen and Miss Lily, who had been offering shelter to Americana, were taken to a hotel under protective custody. They were accompanied by Mr. Bacon, Miss Lily's pet pig, and by Saul Eatstar, her talent agent. The helicopter filmed the moment a dark van left the property. No faces were visible. No words were spoken. The reporter continued, now in a lower tone, as if revealing a public secret. Since being chosen as the sole candidate by the THE-IMPERIUM bunker, through a partnership with the advanced technology company Novak, Americana has become the target of global attention. The selection took place through a worldwide augmented reality app. Users walked the streets scanning objects and landscapes in search of two specific symbols, a white owl and a white cat. Only the correct combination, when scanned simultaneously, would reveal a third hidden QR code, and the chosen one was Americana. Since then, these marks have become her visual signature. Two QR codes are tattooed on her cheeks, one beneath the image of a white owl, the other beneath the image of a white cat. At the center of her forehead, between her eyes, rests a third QR code beneath the drawing of a triangle containing an eye, an ancient symbol that many associate with omniscience and hidden power. These symbols spark divided opinions, the reporter added. For some, they are merely part of the identification process of the THE-IMPERIUM bunker. For others, a signature of Novak upon its intellectual property. But there are also those who see in them a prophetic sign. On the sidewalk, a group held signs with Bible verses from the book of Revelation. One of them shouted, "The mark on the forehead, the mark on the cheeks. It's all written. She is the sign of the beast." We continue to await a statement from the Justice Department. The anchor concluded, back in the studio. In a few moments, experts will debate the legal and social impact of the highest bail payment in history. set at $1 billion, a sum that, according to eyewitnesses, may have been paid in gold coins. At the bottom of the broadcast, hashtags flashed like the nervous impulses of a collapsing collective mind. Hashtag Return Americana. Hash 1 billion in gold. Hashtag Vigil or Oaks. Hashtag She Has the Mark. Live broadcasts. Reaction to 1 billion in gold coins. The internet did not sleep. While newspapers were still searching for reliable sources, the world had already reorganized itself around a new collective obsession. The moment when a woman opened her mouth, and from within it, poured out $1 billion in gold coins. The hearing had not been officially broadcast. All electronic devices failed at the same time, as if the air itself had been cleansed of signals. But that did not prevent the birth of thousands of versions. Lives appeared like fungi after rain. Theories, reconstructions, memes, deepfakes, and screams. In less than 6 hours, 1 billion in gold had become the most talked about topic in over 50 countries. Amid the chaos, a second phenomenon was gaining strength: the face of Americana. The 3 QR codes imprinted on her skin, 2 on her cheeks, 1 on her forehead, had become icons of worship and global hysteria. Every detail was magnified, cropped, analyzed. On one side of her face, the image of a white owl. On the other, a white cat. In the center of her forehead, a triangle with an eye inside. All 3 surrounded by square codes, blinking in a loop across the screens of every device on the planet. "Guys, I'm in shock," said an influencer during her live stream, with over 1.8 million viewers watching simultaneously. This girl was chosen by an app. An app. You'd walk down the street, scan the owl and cat emojis, and if you found both together, boom, QR code on your face. And now she's gone. In the comments, the audience reacted as if witnessing a messianic entity fallen from the sky. She is the end of capitalism. Let I choose our world leader. Triangle on her forehead is the Illuminati signature. That's obvious. In another part of the world, a podcast remixed the metallic sound of gold coins falling to the ground. And people applauded, said the host. Meanwhile, I'm here trying to pay my rent with a QR code, and it won't work. The edits multiplied. On TikTok, videos showed Americana's image with angelic filters and glowing eyes. In every frame, gold coins fell in slow motion to the sound of epic music. One viral video displayed the 3 marks on her face as points of cosmic alignment. A caption on screen read, "It's the technological trinity." The beast was sealed with codes. Scenes of protest and worship began to blur. In Sao Paulo, a crowd marched with signs reading, "She is the new operating system." In Nairobi, young people performed a synchronized dance around QR codes printed on their shirts. A street streamer shouted into his camera, "Leave from in front of the Hollywood sign. This is the apocalypse of ethics." Since when does gold come out of a mouth? Since when does an app decide who's worth $1 billion? A visual artist projected Americana's face onto the top of a skyscraper. The image rotated slowly, her facial marks lit in neon. Below it, the inscription read, "How much is a marked face worth?" Comments popped up in real time beneath every video. "She is Jesus 2.0. She's the Antichrist with a serial code. She's just a girl." None of the images were real. None of the videos had been filmed at the hearing. But all of them looked so real that the lie lost its importance. The people had already chosen their version. As helicopters hovered over Malibu and theories multiplied like mitosis, a hashtag lit up at the top of the digital world like a veiled omen. Hashtag She Has the Cipher. Ideological influencers, diverging political and social agendas. In less than 12 hours, Americana ceased to be a missing girl and became a distorted reflection of humanity. The heroine for those who fought the system. the villain for those who feared the new, the living proof that everything was broken, or that everything was still possible. Opinion channels sprang up nonstop. Videos recorded in dark bedrooms, improvised balconies, studios lit with LEDs and filters. Americana's face appeared in thumbnails with capitalized titles. What they don't want you to know. She is not one of you's new messiah or false prophet. In all of these thumbnails, the 3 marks on Americana's face were visible. Even blurred, even pixelated. The triangle with the eye on her forehead, the symbols of the owl and the cat on her cheeks had become visual triggers. There was something in that, symmetry that activated ancient beliefs and new fanaticisms. They're not angry about the gold, said a commentator on her intersectional feminist channel with over 6 million followers. They're angry because it's an orphan girl, an immigrant without a noble surname, because she shattered the glass ceiling like a meteor. And now she carries on her skin the codes of a system that was never built for her. On another channel, a man in a patriotic suit, standing before a backdrop of golden eagles, declared, "This is the beginning of the end." A parallel system to our state is forming leaders no one voted for. The company Novak has created an algorithm to replace our children. This girl isn't chosen. She is programmed. A popular environmentalist pointed to charts on the screen. $1 billion. That would fund all of the UN's environmental goals for the next 5 years. But the Imperium bunker and its eye decided to invest in the image of a teenager marked with Kabbalistic symbols. Will the next generation of leaders be algorithmic? An alternative podcaster, speaking in a low voice and with a fixed gaze, whispered in a hypnotic tone, "Have you noticed that all the marks are located over energetic points of the face? Third eye, emotional channel, identity. This isn't a tattoo. This is a seal." He paused, then added, "What if she's not even human?" A progressive group used Americana's image surrounded by flowers and light. Overlaid text read, "She is what the system has feared for centuries. One with no inheritance, no veil, no master." Another group, extremist, responded with a different image. Americana with red eyes, fire in the background. Text, "The algorithm of the beast now has a face." And so, each group reshaped Americana. Some said she was a symbol of resistance. Others of reverse colonization. Some accused her of being a Masonic product. Others claimed she was an Illuminati project. Still others said she was the apocalypse itself with a Wi-Fi signal. On a religious forum, a user posted an edited image with the caption, "Triangle with an eye, mark on the forehead, 2 animals. It's in Revelation. She came marked, and all will bow." Americana was, at once, every cause, and none. A video went viral with over 300 million views. The creator looked into the camera, eyes filled with tears, silent for a few seconds before saying, "Do you know why she's worth $1 billion? Because the entire world is trying to decide whether she's guilty or sacred." He paused, then concluded, "And meanwhile, no one asked if she was afraid." Platforms and revivals, religion, politics, and symbolic explosion. The streets were transformed. The world, which only hours ago had been screaming in pixels, now rose onto stages. In less than a day, Americana was being invoked in sermons, speeches, rallies, assemblies, and public vigils. She was no longer a girl, an orphan, or a defendant. She was a symbol, and like every symbol, she had been seized from all sides. In a crowded square in Houston, a fiery congressman shouted into a megaphone, "No one elected this girl. No one knows her origin. She was chosen by an app controlled by a company called Novak. This is machine rule. This is the religion of AI." The crowd applauded and waved signs bearing phrases like, "She doesn't speak for us. The spot is ours. And where is America's gold? A few kilometers away, an open-air worship service was forming in an empty field. A preacher shouted beneath a sky lit by drones. The book of Revelation says it. The mark shall be on the forehead, that no one may buy or sell without it. And look at her, owl, cat, the triangle with the eye. It's all in the Holy Scriptures. The faithful knelt, some in a trance. Cries of hallelujah, and begone demon, blended with whispered prayers. Some shouted Americana's name. Others refused to speak it. In Berlin, a progressive crowd filled the parliament steps with flowers, flags, and handwritten banners reading, "She is one of us." A young activist spoke to the crowd. She was marked by a system that would never have allowed her in. But she entered. She is the glitch in fate. And now the whole world wants to decide whether her face is a mistake or a warning. In Tel Aviv, a learned rabbi stood before the Wailing Wall. The ancients knew. They knew someone would come without a name, without inheritance, with eyes like mirrors. And upon her skin, the signs would be placed. Not so she could be recognized, but so the world would divide upon seeing her. In Istanbul, the Imam of the Blue Mosque ended his sermon saying, "When we don't know who someone is, we treat them as a threat. When we fear their worth, we call them a witch." May God protect this girl from our own ignorance. Around the world, platforms rose with giant screens and floodlights. In every city, a version. In every temple, an interpretation. In every voice, a certainty. And in all of them, Americana stood at the center, even without appearing, even without speaking, even without having chosen anything. At a global rally streamed across social networks, 12 stages were shown simultaneously on a split screen. On every one, people shouted at the same time. None could be heard. None fell silent. And there, at last, the silence weighed. On the black screen, a single sentence emerged. Everyone speaks for her. No one listens. Conspiracy theories. Helena Blavatsky and the hidden fate of the THE-IMPERIUM bunker. At some point in the early hours of the morning, the name Helena Blavatsky began reappearing in the comments. First in old videos, then in esoteric podcasts. Soon, like a sudden fever, it was everywhere. "You think Americana is the first?" asked a hooded man on a conspiracy channel. In 1940, during World War II, a teenage refugee was accepted into the same bunker. And later, she vanished. No trace, no body, no record. The video displayed blurry black and white photos. None seemed to prove anything, but all gave the impression that something had been hidden. Her name wasn't Helena. That name was given to her later. A Cody name. A veil. A seal. In a documentary titled "The First Sacrificed," the narration claimed that Helena had been absorbed by the Imperium bunker as part of an ancient pact between three secret societies: the Order of the Folded Light, the Masonry of the Southern Temple, and the Illuminati of the Inner Hemisphere. The gold used to pay Americana's bail was symbolic, the narrator said. It wasn't a currency exchange. It was the settling of a debt, the ransom of a pact left unfulfilled. A ufologist suggested that Helena never disappeared. She simply crossed over. She was the first to be abducted on American soil with consent. The Imperium bunker is one of the entry points for hybrid consciousness. The girl who vanished in 1940 may have returned now, only with a new face, marked. An anonymous post on an occultist forum circulated through screenshots. Helena was fused to the Axis. Now the second one has come. The one who walks without a name. The one who carries the billion. The one who bears the mark. The cycle has begun again. In a whispered podcast, a specialist in secret UN systems revealed that the name of the THE-IMPERIUM Bunker appears in internal documents from 1941, listed as a nonlinear, strategic allocation entity. No official explanation was ever given. The most disturbing part was that no recording of Americana's hearing exists. No camera, drone, phone, or satellite captured the moment she disappeared. The woman with green hair, the shower of coins, the sudden silence. All of it is only collective memory, and even that, perhaps manipulated. Images of the marks on her face began to be analyzed by cryptanalysts. They claimed that the QR codes on the left and right cheeks formed complementary binary code. The QR code on the forehead, beneath the triangle with the eye, was said to be the symbolic activation key. Religious theorists cross-referenced it with the Book of Revelation, and it was given unto them to receive a mark on their forehead and on their hand, and that no one might buy or sell without it. We are repeating the cycle, said one commentator in a dark tone. If we don't demand answers now, we'll wake up in the year 2108 asking about another girl who also vanished. And we'll pretend we didn't know. The last image to go viral that day did not show Americana, nor Helena. It showed the Hollywood sign, fixed atop Mount Lee, wrapped in a pale mist. The caption read, "The bunker is still there, but no one enters. They only disappear. The return." The tide was calm. It was past midnight, and the silence of the sea was broken only by the faint sound of the boat's engine, now shut off, and the soft laughter of a couple kissing under the Malibu moonlight. "You're going to tickle me," the woman said, laughing as she felt her fiance's lips trail down her neck. "Stop it," she whispered, not wanting him to stop. She held a bottle of champagne in one hand and her phone in the other. She wanted to capture the moment. She opened an Instagram Live. No one was watching. The front camera showed the couple. The man was kissing her neck, the moonlight shining in the background, the still water like a painting. The engagement ring glinted softly. She took a sip straight from the bottle, smiled at the screen, adjusted the angle. She wanted to look spontaneous. And then the flash. About 700 meters from the boat, right in the center of the camera's frame, a light exploded 2 meters above the surface of the water. It was fast, bright, silent for a fraction of a second, then a sharp sound, like something heavy cutting through the sea. "Oh my God, what is that?" the man asked, turning his head. "Oh my God, babe, did you see that?" The woman said, still holding her phone, the live stream still open. She didn't turn it off. She pointed the camera toward the impact site. The water was bubbling, as if it had swallowed a comet. A head emerged. "Babe, it's a person. We have to help," the woman shouted, standing up in panic. "Jesus, okay, I'm going," the man said. He started the boat engine, moved quickly toward the spot, and threw out a life buoy and a life vest. The figure in the water clung tightly. She was shaking, drowning, desperate. Her skin pale, her body frail. The man rushed to the boat's ladder, reached out his hand, and pulled the soaked, gasping person back to the surface. "Oh my God, are you okay?" he asked. "Jesus?" "Oh my God." For a moment, everything was just heavy breathing and water dripping. But when the woman looked closer, she saw it. First, the uniform. It was a prison uniform. Her eyes slowly moved up to the face of the figure. There was something unmistakable. The QR codes on the cheeks. The triangular symbol with the eye on the forehead. "Babe, it's her. It's Americana. Look, it's her." "Seriously?" "What?" "Wow. It really is. Look at the marks." Americana was trembling, her lips purple, her eyes half closed, trying to understand where she was. The woman pointed her phone at her face. The live stream was still open. No one was watching. That was when everything changed. From all directions across the ocean, Camouflaged boats bearing the flag of the United States emerged. The sound of their engines roared like thunder tearing through the night. Blinding white lights illuminated the sea as if it were day. One of the boats projected a beam of light directly onto the couple's boat. For a moment, they were blinded. "Civilians, attention, stand down. You are under investigation," shouted a male voice, amplified through a loudspeaker with commanding force. Within seconds, men in camouflaged uniforms and heavy boots jumped onto the boat, aiming weapons, occupying the deck as if storming enemy territory. One of the soldiers noticed the woman's phone in her hand. The screen still showed the live stream. "Your smartphone device is being confiscated by the armed forces of the United States," he said, then yanked the phone from her hand with a swift pull. The screen went dark. The live stream ended. Americana felt tingling in her feet and hands. Everything was dark, dark and cold. In the distance, a point of light appeared. It began small, timid. Suddenly, the light expanded and filled the entire space, which was both a place and, at the same time, nothing. The light revealed a lion. The light came from the lion, right from the center of its forehead. Americana thought, "Hello, you again." She only thought it, but it felt as though the lion had heard her, because moments later it ran toward her and opened its massive mouth. Americana expected to see huge pointed teeth and a red tongue, but instead there was another light inside the lion. Not the same light that had shone from the center of its forehead. A different kind of light. Artificial. Americana was swallowed by the lion. "She's going to be fine. She just needs rest. She'll be ready soon," said a man in a white coat, a small flashlight in hand, examining her eyes. Americana slowly started to come back, until she realized she was in a hospital room. The doctor who had just examined her was making notes on a clipboard. 3 nurses were also in the room. One was adjusting the sheets that covered her. Another was checking the 4 that had just been replaced. And the third was speaking with a man standing in the corner of the room. While the man listened to the nurse, Americana noticed that he was looking at her and nodding quietly. Everyone left the room, except for the man in the corner. The door closed. The man walked toward Americana. FOEDUS. "I am ambassador of the Imperium here in Common World." The man introduced himself to Americana. He wore a black suit and tie. Pinned to the lapel of his jacket, Americana saw a small golden brooch shaped like a staff with 2 serpents coiled around it and wings at the top. He had a peculiar way of speaking. "My name is Sasha Henvoy T. Medved Psychopomp, but all people call me Medved. I am here to keep safe of you." Someone knocked 3 times on the door, then walked in. A smiling woman with pink and lilac hair, wearing a lemon-yellow blazer and a large crucifix around her neck, approached Americana. "FOEDUS," she said, chewing gum. "I see you've already met Medved. Nice to meet you. I'm Eleanor T. Velasco, but everyone calls me Velasco." The woman extended her hand. Americana shook it. "What does the letter T in both your names mean?" Americana asked. "For to know this, you must show is of trust," Medved replied, smiling. "Thank God you're doing great. Already alert and thinking. Ready for another round, like my grandma used to say," Velasco said with a little laugh. "Medved and I were sent to you to take care of this situation that seems to have gotten a little out of hand. But nothing a public appearance. Lots of smiles, makeup, and fresh. Clothes can't fix." Velasco walked over to the window and opened the curtains. "Looks like the Chancellor of Portals got a little too excited at Saturday's hearing." Velasco made a finger gesture to symbolize money. "Half the public didn't like the fact that your $1 billion bail was paid. But that doesn't matter. We'll focus on the other half that likes you. Americana felt a little dizzy hearing all those words. Public appearance. And people who didn't like her. Where's the Chancellor? Is she okay? Americana asked, forcing herself to sit up in the bed. She's fine, yes. She's doing great. Already back to work, in fact. But now we need to focus on you, because when the sun starts to set, you'll shine so bright and radiant that people won't even notice it's nighttime, Velasco said with another little laugh. I'll be your public appearance agent, your link between the common world and the Imperium. From now on, you need to project an image that makes both of these worlds love you. That's what I'm here for. And the big guy Medved will handle your safety while I take care of your appearance. Velasco sat down on the bed and placed her hand over Americana's. I'm going to make you so beautiful that people would pay $10 billion for you, if that's what it took. Velasco gave a soft laugh. Let's start by working on your body language. After all, it's no use being gorgeous and well-dressed if you don't know how to use the right movements and facial expressions. Velasco caressed Americana's face, but it didn't feel like sympathy. It felt like she was analyzing her face. These QR codes need to give the impression that the Imperium, Bunker and Novak Strai are the best thing that has happened to the common world since the death of Jesus Christ. And for that, they need to see you as a pure, immaculate, chosen saint, just like Mary, Mother of God. Velasco stood up, picked up a tray with chicken soup, whole grain bread, grapes, and juice, and placed it on Americana's lap. First step. You need a lot of energy for what we're going to do today. So eat everything. After she finished eating, Velasco asked Americana to show her smile. Thank God your teeth are good, the woman said, relieved. But having good teeth wasn't enough for what was coming. Velasco explained that smiling too much would create wrinkles on her face during photos and filming, and smiling too little would make her seem unfriendly. The smile had to be exactly right. Then came the training on how to wave. Not carelessly, like someone swatting away bees, but with elegance, like a queen who appeared to be holding a seashell in her hand. Finally, the clothing. According to Velasco, it wasn't enough for the outfit to be expensive and designer. The clothing needed to express the wearer's intention. For that, Americana would wear colors, fabrics, and patterns that subtly persuaded the audience's psychology, making her appear to be the happiest and most grateful girl in the world for having been chosen to enter the Imperium bunker. White, light blue, light blush, and beige were colors Americana could wear freely. Red, black, purple, and gold were to be avoided. White conveys purity, a fresh start, the absence of threat. When a crowd is hostile, white acts like a field of neutralization, said Velasco, opening the door and signaling for 3 clothing racks filled with white garments, to be pushed into the room by people dressed just like Medved. Americana took a shower, put on a robe, and sat in a chair. Velasco took a discreet white gold necklace with a pendant shaped like the planet Saturn and placed it around Americana's neck. She began pressing the pendant, and various tones of makeup passed across the girl's face. Then she asked her to stand. But before the dressing could begin, Medved stepped forward and handed over a bulletproof vest made especially for Americana. It was the same color as her skin, so it wouldn't contrast beneath the clothes. Americana put on the vest, anticipating the intense pressure that was about to come. Velasco dressed her, stepped back, and looked at her as if she were an almost finished sculpture. Then she circled around Americana like a surgeon preparing a body before display. She adjusted the fabric in every direction. Max Mara, white crepe couture, she said, positioning the collar of a long coat that trailed across the floor. Purity neutralizes aggression. She ran her fingers along the coat's slit, which opened subtly at waist level. Front slit. suggests openness, frankness, doesn't hide, but doesn't expose either. Beneath the coat, a pair of the row-tailored trousers. Straight cut, no visible crease. Same tone, uniformity, conveys stability. She looked into Americana's eyes and pointed with her chin. Chloe, beige cashmere lining, she noted with precision. Tenderness, protection, an invisible mother embracing you. She fastened a bow on Americana's head. Headband in matching fabric. Visual unity. Conveys integrity. She stepped back a few paces, observing how the light touched the ensemble. Maison Margiela. Small bow. Suggests childhood without appearing childish. She returned to Americana's face. Light pink blush. Health. She woke up early, slept well, and she's happy. Champagne eyeshadow. Conveys clarity. Lip color matching skin tone. Sincerity. She's hiding nothing. Chanel ballerina nails. Good upbringing. Velasco then stopped. Her hands were clean, but it felt as if she had just sculpted a statue. You are dressed in message. You're going to say to the world, I am grateful. I am light. I am inevitable. Velasco seemed to have finished her work with Americana, because right after that, Medved stepped forward and said, From today is begin your class in Equal 10 Academy. Peoples of common world having great expectation of your crossing and final entrance into the Imperium bunker. We must make path from Malibu to Hollywood sign. So we must make big spectacle. Peoples are expecting this. You understand? Americana nodded, though she felt more confused than before. Velasco came closer, took Americana's hands, and the two of them sat down on the bed. She looked into Americana's eyes and said, Americana, I know everything is happening very fast. I also know there are people who like you, both here in the common world and there in the Imperium. But there are also people who hate you in both places without ever meeting you, without even knowing who you really are. From now on, you'll have the chance to show half of those people who don't like you that they were wrong. Earn it, Americana. The time is now. Medved stepped forward again, pulled an envelope from inside his blazer, and handed it to Americana. Her name was written in black ink, in cursive. Americana opened the envelope and read, The Imperium, August 12, 2024, Fac FOEDUS. As your current headmistress, I write this letter to extend my greetings to you, Americana del Silva. I would like to reassure you regarding the unforeseen event that took place last Saturday at the Thoth Precinct in the Gibura Pyramid inside the Queen Orion bunker. The suspects behind the terrorist attack are not merely evil individuals who sought to harm an innocent and defenseless child like yourself. They are enemies of all citizens of the Imperium from the moment they chose chaos and disorder as their means of being heard. As headmistress of the Equal 10 Academy since 1913, and as CEO of Novak, I hereby reaffirm the commitment of this institution and this company. Our arms and hearts are open to receive you. With great joy and anticipation, I await your presence tonight at the King MatNat History Museum, where all new students will be welcomed. Our specialized security team and our public relations and marketing division have been deployed to ensure that your transition is as transparent, harmonious, and satisfactory as possible, not only for the public, but above all, for you, Americana, the newest student of Equal 10, the newest citizen of the THE-IMPERIUM bunker. I await you. Fac FOEDUS. Pope's Rock. Head of House, the strategist. Headmistress, Equal 10 Academy. CEO Novak, PhD Ars Goetia. PhD Shem HaMephorash. PhD Latin. PhD Hebrew. PhD Human and Animal Cloning. PhD Genetic Mutation. PhD Robotics. PhD Advanced Technology. PhD Human animal, plant, and inanimate structure DNA. Bunker Enigma Gemini Pyramid Prince equal 10. Americana reread the letter 3 times, trying to make sure she had read it correctly. Especially the part that said, Pope's Rock had been the headmistress since 1913. She must have gotten confused while writing, Americana thought. She decided she would keep that letter forever, no matter what happened. To be admitted into an academy attended only by the elite, children of magnates and nobles, and to receive a handwritten welcome letter from the headmistress herself was not something that could go unnoticed. It deserved to be part of history. Her history. Her memory. Americana felt that fear, suddenly, had started to lower its guard. After all, if the headmistress herself had sent an entire team to care for her, maybe there really wasn't a reason to resist going to the Imperium bunker. Since arriving in the United States, this was one of the rare moments when Americana had felt safe and accepted in a place. But that illusion shattered the very moment Velasco stepped closer and said, Americana, we have an itinerary to follow. She showed Americana the screen of a tablet, where an itinerary was displayed, scheduled down to the minute and second. It read, Official Itinerary, Monday, August 12, 2024. Public Introduction Process. Integration. Protocol for Scholarship. Recipient 002, EQUAL. 10 Academy. Novak Strahi, The Imperium Bunker. 4 p.m. Departure from Malibu Residence. Beginning of ceremonial procession. Gate opening and limousine boarding. Armed escort. Press drones. Global coverage. 4:30 p.m. Pacific Coast Highway. Malibu gives Santa Monica. Coastal crossing. Spontaneous public crowds. Initial religious and popular demonstrations. 5:30 p.m. Santa Monica Boulevard. Brentwood plus Beverly Hills. Institutional silence segment. Presence of traditional households. Fixed cameras. Diplomatic observers. Observation by local elites. No interaction expected. 6:30 p.m. Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard. Central media phase. Hologram recordings, public chants, aesthetic drones. Presence of influencers, reporters, and zealots. Official advertising campaigns by Novak Strahi. 7:15 p.m. to Gower Street/base of Mount Lee. Limousine parking. Controlled transfer to ceremonial helicopter. Technical team begins aerial image positioning. 7:35 p.m. Helicopter takeoff. Ritualistic overflight. Attainment of symbolic altitude. Visual anticipation and real-time broadcast. 7:43 p.m. Scheduled sunset. Helicopter hovering above the Hollywood sign. Hologram activated. Symbolic replacement with the Imperium. Peak of public visibility. Illumination begins. 8 p.m. Final ceremony. Public positioned. Lights on. Helicopter descent. 8:15 p.m. Official entrance of the scholarship. Recipient into Jump Chrono Station. Protocol closure. Public broadcast ends. Full record archived to Novak Strahi servers. Americana's stomach felt like it was twisting. Velasco noticed that her color was changing as she finished reading the last lines of the itinerary. Americana, stay calm. You won't be alone at any moment. Let me explain it better. People think you're still at the house in Malibu. That's why we'll go there and depart from there. A limousine is waiting. You'll only need to appear through the sunroof wave and smile at the people who are there, waiting to see you. Seeing that Americana still didn't seem convinced, Velasco held both her hands. They were sweaty. Americana, the limousine will move slowly from the Malibu house all the way to the Hollywood sign. I promise you, I'll be by your side the entire way. Everything's going to be fine. Stay calm. You are and always will be safe. Just smile and wave to the crowd and the cameras, just like we practiced. The clock read 3:45 p.m. Medved approached Americana and Velasco. It be time. We must go now. Americana followed behind Medved, with Velasco at her side and 2 guards behind him, until they reached another room. Medved opened the door and gestured for Americana to step in. In the center of the room stood a jump chrono station. They all passed through the portal. Americana, Velasco, Medved, and the 2 guards were now in the living room of the Malibu house. Americana noticed that the sunlight, which usually flooded the rooms through the panoramic glass walls at that hour, was now completely blocked by thick wooden panels, leaving the space dimly lit. They all headed to the kitchen and stopped in front of the door that led to the garage. Americana, 11 minutes until the start of our crossing operation. I need you to stay focused and alert. Everything's going to be fine. Just remember to smile and wave like we practiced. Velasco gave the final touches to Americana's hair and ran a makeup, brushed gently over the areas where her QR codes were. Medved and Velasco put on their sunglasses. Medved opened the kitchen door, made a hand gesture that looked like a command, and spoke into a device that resembled a walkie-talkie, using a language Americana couldn't identify. He motioned for her to step forward. Velasco stood behind Americana and placed both hands on her back, the gesture soft enough to seem like a gentle nudge. Americana stepped into the garage, and her ears were instantly flooded by the noise of a massive crowd on the other side of the gate. A white Rolls-Royce limousine, designed by Andriy Gusev, stood waiting with its doors open. Inside the vehicle, 10 heavily armed and masked men sat in silence, holding large weapons. At the spot where the sunroof had been, there was now an improvised seat designed for Americana to remain seated throughout the entire journey, with her upper body and arms fully visible to everyone outside the limousine. Americana stepped in and took her seat with Medved's help. Her head emerged through the open sunroof of the vehicle. At that moment, Americana was facing the garage gate. She looked to the side. Velasco was now holding a stopwatch in one hand and a tablet in the other. Velasco showed the stopwatch to Medved, who looked at it and said, "Tovarishi, period. Positions. Countdown. 11, 10, 9, 8. Americana began to feel a tightness in her chest. 7. Her stomach started to churn. 6, 5. Now her belly began to make noises. 4. Oh no, she had the urge to go to the bathroom for number 2. 3. A drop of sweat ran down her back and slid all the way to the waistband of her pants. 2. Was it her imagination? Or was everything getting dark and blurry? 1. Tovarishi, period. Go. The sound of a creak seemed to mark the final decree of that countdown. At the same time, it echoed like a chant for the new world that was beginning from that very instant. The garage door began to open. It was exactly 4 p.m. Sunlight started to flood the garage as the gate lifted. The light gradually reached the spirit of ecstasy on the hood of the Rolls-Royce. The sunlight came accompanied by the deafening screams of a crowd Americana still couldn't see. The limousine began to move. The integration protocol had begun. Journalistic broadcast, Channel 8 News, Malibu, California, 4 p.m. We're back with live footage from Malibu, California, announced anchor Miles Harper, his tone somber. What you're seeing now is the entrance to the residence where Americana lived up until the federal hearing last Saturday. On screen, helicopters hovered over an area, sectioned off by metal barricades and silver-gray uniformed soldiers. Between them, 2 distinct gatherings had formed, one of candles and prayers, the other of banners and insults. "We've been stationed here since morning," said local correspondent Claire Darnell, speaking from an elevated spot on the block. "The atmosphere has shifted between worship and protest throughout the day. And now, as 4 o'clock approaches, something is changing." The camera cut to the house's front gate. Nothing had moved yet. Only the murmurs of the crowd and the hum of drones filled the silence. Claire walked up to the fence, where a man stood holding an improvised cardboard sign. If she was chosen, why are we being ignored? He wore jeans, an old band t-shirt, and his eyes were red. "What's your name?" asked Claire. "Caleb." "And why are you here today, Caleb?" Caleb hesitated for a second. "Because I dreamed of her, before I knew who she was. I dreamed of a girl with light on her face and silence in her eyes. When I saw the marks, I knew. I just need to see if she's real." The camera shifted. On the other side of the barricade, a group was shouting, "This is money laundering. This is an elite circus." One of them held a megaphone and a sign that read, "Equality is not an algorithm." The anchor returned briefly. Just a reminder that Americana disappeared following her federal hearing in Los Angeles on Saturday, and since then, no confirmed sightings have been reported. Rumors of her return have circulated in recent hours, but everything remains speculation. Until now, Claire pressed a hand to her earpiece. "We have confirmation. The gates are opening. I repeat, the gates to the residence are opening at this very moment." The helicopter pulled back. A white glow emerged from the shadows of the garage. The limousine slid out with its roof open. It wasn't an escort. It was a parade. The asphalt trembled beneath the containment tanks. Then Americana appeared, standing, dressed in white, the coastal wind touching her hair, the marks on her face exposed like wounds and crowns. She looked at no one, said nothing. She was simply there. Claire spoke. "Americana has come out. She's here." And no one quite knew whether to applaud, scream, or fall to their knees. Malibu, under the late afternoon sun, stood still for 5 seconds. Then the world screamed. Live broadcast. TikTok, Monday, August 12, 2024 to 4:42 p.m. Live TikTok at Miranda Flare, 1.3 meters watching. "Hi, guys. I'm here. Malibu's already behind us. We're now on the Pacific Coast Highway, right where she's going to pass." Miranda's camera shook slightly. She was speaking with her phone mounted to the windshield by a suction cup, while keeping one hand on a makeshift lapel mic. In the background, a crowd pressed behind the barricades, holding flags, plastic flowers, and posters taped to the metal structures. The ocean was to the left. The sun gilded everything. For anyone just tuning in, it's 4:42 p.m. here in Cali. And yes, it's official. Americana has left her house. She's coming. Like, for real. And I've been here since 8 in the morning. No bathroom. No real food. I only brought Doritos, water, an energy drink, and a little packed lunch from my mom. Comment on screen at ZAEO Dark92. Is she gonna wave at someone? Or is this like Zombie March? Pinned comment at NOOB Prophet. The AI prophecy has begun. Guys, I swear, everything's just way too organized. Like, look at this. She turned the camera. The PCH, normally open and noisy, was completely shut down by silver tanks. Soldiers in mirrored visors lined the perimeter. Overhead, 3 drones hovered in a triangle formation. This feels like a princess parade. But cyberpunk. I don't know if she's a prisoner or a queen. For real, I'm glitched out. She pulled the camera back to her face. I'm gonna try talking to someone here. Hold up. She crouched down, pointing the mic toward a girl sitting on the sidewalk, made up like Americana, glitter shimmering on her imitation tattoos. "Hey, gorgeous. Why are you here today?" "Because I think she's gonna save us." "Save us from what exactly?" "I don't know. Boredom? The system? Having to be perfect just to be worth something?" Comment at XX Jeremier XX. This girl is a collective delusion. Comment at Angels for Ana. She's the new light. How do you not see that? Ooh, guys. I'm nervous. Seriously. Last time I felt like this was during the Shadow Stars 8 finale, when Kai almost died in the dimensional glitch episode. But now it's real. Like, it's a real person. A deep sound rumbled across the sky. It's her, guys. It's her. The crowd began to move. Phones rose like towers of light. In the distance, the limousine was rounding the coastal curve. The sea reflected its surface like a mirror of silver. The drones descended into a circular formation. She's standing on the car. It's her. The white dress. The marks. My God, she's beautiful? Like beautiful in a way that feels like she doesn't belong here. Miranda swallowed hard. The live stream flickered for a second with interference from the drones. I'm shaking, guys. I swear on everything. It feels like time just slowed down. Look at this. The limousine passed in front of her. Americana looked in her direction. Or maybe at no one. The wind moved the girl's hair on the ground. The camera blurred. A scream rose from the spectators. Did she look at me? Did she see me? The crowd erupted. Some cried. Others pushed against the barricades. Miranda turned the camera back to herself. It's official. I saw her. She's alive. And she's moving forward. Even with all of this. She's going. Where to, I have no idea. But the whole world is going with her. The live stream reached 2.1 million simultaneous viewers. Broadcast ended automatically due to signal interference. Private broadcast. Podcast Ars Voice. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 5:31 p.m. Recording in progress. Episode 029. Privileged View. Location: Galdwin Residence Rooftop, Brentwood, Los Angeles, CA. I know everyone's making some epic fuss about this. The voice was low, lazy, and perfectly measured. Emotionless. But, honestly, we've seen this parade before. They just changed the costumes. The camera captured the face of Savannah Galdwin, heiress to a brutalist architecture brand focused on sustainable interiors. She wore sunglasses even with the sun nearly vanished behind the Pacific, and sat with a glass of white wine resting on her crossed leg. I'm recording from my grandma's rooftop, okay? And before anyone accuses me of anything, yes, I've got a direct view of this Santa Monica Boulevard stretch. And yes, she just passed by. Savannah tilted her phone slightly. Down below, the limousine moved in solemn procession between mansions, closed gates, and motionless security guards. No shouting, no waving, just silence and curtains quietly closing. They think she's not dangerous, said Savannah, turning back to the camera. But she is. Not because she's going to do something, but because she exists. She paused, then added, and because she wasn't chosen by the right names. Cross-posted story with animated caption. She doesn't speak, but everyone listens. Location tagged. Brentwood Heights. Premium view. I'm seeing the comments, okay? She's one of us. She represents us. Guys. She doesn't. I studied with people who had to fight for one spot at Stanford against 30,000 others. She was chosen by a cat emoji. This isn't judgment. It's arithmetic. She took a sip from her glass. The system is unfair. It always has been. But if you're going to tear it all down, at least replace it with someone who knows how to use cutlery. That's all I'm asking. The sound of the avenue below was muffled. A floating ad drone hovered in the distance, projecting holograms with Novak Strai's slogan. The future wasn't a lottery. It was earned. Savannah didn't look. Deep down, most people here are silent because they don't want to be the first to blink. But everyone's scared. Scared of being replaced by someone who never even wanted to play. Last pinned comment on the podcast recording. Maybe she doesn't even know what she's doing. Savannah smiled faintly, like someone who knows more than she says. Maybe, but someone does. Pirate Broadcast Channel, VEGA 111. Hidden Neural Network, Monday, August 12, 2024 to 6:36 p.m. Unauthorized broadcast. Hidden transmission. Channel VEGA 111. She is above us. The male voice carried the tone of an ancient priest. Deep, sibilant. It was unclear whether he was reading, whispering, or prophesying. In this moment, brothers, the chosen one descends the avenue of final judgment. She crosses the line that separates the visible. From the inevitable, the footage was slightly distorted, with enhanced brightness. It came from an unregistered drone hovering above Sunset Boulevard. Digital billboards, holographic smoke, screams. At the center, the limousine, and inside it, Americana. The body that walks is no longer hers. It is a vessel. On the sidewalks, the Hollywood stars were being covered with flowers, mirrors, clothes, hair, and personal belongings. People kneeling. People screaming. People filming. They offer the images of the ancients. They hope she will replace them. A massive hologram over a stage showed Americana smiling and saying, "I'm happy to be alive." The-IMPERIUM bunker is the way. The drone shook. The voice on the channel roared. Lies. She doesn't speak for herself. That is not her voice. Sidebar comments on the channel. The seal has been broken. She bears 3 marks. This is sacred. The lights are our prayers. The broadcast zoomed in on a woman with her eyes painted white, holding a cross made of glass. She is the door, but she is also the lock. If she ascends, the world will be divided between those who saw and those who pretended not to. Footage showed girls with makeup like hers, dressed in white, dancing in circles, shouting slogans. One of them raised her hand to touch the limousine. Soldiers knocked her down. The crowd didn't flinch. They kept dancing. Idolatry became flesh. The flesh became mirror. And then, for a second, the transmission froze. The drone hovered still above Gower Street. The city below fell into silence. The voice said only, "Prepare the veil. The ascent is about to begin." Collected fragments from forums. Encrypted broadcasts and deleted podcasts Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:14 p.m. Recovered file. Forum truth_nexus_0. Anonymous. User posted 7:14 p.m. the 12th of August 2024. She's not ascending a hill. She's repeating the cycle. In 1940, Helena Blavatsky ascended too. No one understood it back then. Now they're applauding. Excerpt from the podcast Subsurface. Episode removed. The helicopter is at the base. It's white with a feather seal. Exactly like in the simulations made by a Russian artist in 2017. Audio briefly cuts out. The 2024 one carries what was missing. The 3 seals. 2 on the cheeks. 1 at the center of the third eye. Perfect activation. Beginning of the final circuit. Viral 12-second video posted and deleted within 3 minutes. Grainy image of Americana stepping out of the limousine. The lens focuses on her shoes touching the ground. Overlaid in white text, she's not the only one who's going to disappear. Unauthenticated document. Screenshot. EG001. Confirmed. Same energy pattern as 1940. Cycle restarted. Do not interfere. Footer illegible. Seal. The Imperium bunker. Confidential. Overlaid hidden seal. Unreadable esoteric symbols. Whispered voice. Origin unknown. The public thinks it's watching a spectacle. But the circle is forming. What's about to happen now isn't a broadcast. It's a summoning, and most have already accepted it. Occult forum. Alpha_reflex. Pinned post. Her name never mattered. What matters are the codes. Helena Blavatsky was fused to the axis. Now comes the second, the marked one, the one who walks between algorithms and psalms. Alternative podcast, second spiral, banned episode. Her QR codes are not ornamental. They are vibrational layers. Left, rational guardian animal. Right, emotional guardian animal. Center, activating eye. Result, universal seal. This isn't aesthetics. It's spiritual encryption. Capture of a deleted comment. Why is no one questioning what's beneath the sign? They're not taking her up. They're taking her in. The bunker is still there. But no one goes in. They just disappear. Final frame from civilian drone Juno X before total signal lockdown. The image is frozen on Gower Street. The limousine is still. The helicopter doors are open. Americana is standing. The white overcoat fluttering like a sacrificial veil. Auto-overlay text. Descent initiation authorized. THE-IMPERIUM_01. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:14 p.m. local time. The limousine slowly ascended the final slope, flanked by armored tanks and drones with bluish lights. The engine made almost no sound, but its movement seemed to bend time itself, as if Mount Lee were folding inward to receive her. Along the service road, holographic fences sparked softly each time someone tried to get closer. Beyond them, the crowd had overtaken the hills, the clearings, the patches of dry soil, and the grassy areas, forming concentric rings around the sign. The mass was white. White garments. Simple clothing. Robes, cloaks, shirts. All with their arms crossed. All with phones in their hands. All waiting. Inside the limousine, Americana remained still on the elevated seat beneath the sunroof, her torso and face exposed, like the bust of a statue in procession. The sky was a blue-gray, already stained with violet traces. The late afternoon light touched the hood with reverence. It was not yet night, but it was no longer day. Her overcoat moved with the soft mountain wind. The front slit swayed like a hesitant flower, briefly revealing the white pants beneath the structure of the outfit. It was a uniform for the sacred and for judgment. The QR codes on her face gleamed like encrypted, gems under the spotlight beams now, beginning to activate at key points along the trail. The drones rotated above her in a hexagonal formation. Beside the limousine, Velasco and Medved walked to the side, crossing the security lines that protected the helipad. Velasco adjusted the fabric of Americana's tiara with a single touch. Medved checked the harness, the safety cable, and the timer embedded in the holster. The limousine stopped, precisely where the asphalt gave way to stone. It was the final point of the terrestrial path. Americana took a deep breath. The air tasted of metal and scorched flowers. She didn't like crowds. She didn't like being the center. She didn't like being seen. But there she was, standing, visible, inevitable. The helicopter awaited atop an open circular platform, its rotors spinning in a hypnotic rhythm. Its sides were white with chrome inlays. The Novax Dry logo pulsed softly in LED. The boarding ladder was lowered, and the sky was already beginning to darken. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:18 p.m. Around the Hollywood sign, the entire slope of Mount Lee had already been taken. But not by occupation, by choreography. White garments on thousands of human bodies drew concentric rings with almost mathematical precision around the giant letters. The hills, the clearings, the plateaus, even the steps of the public trail were filled. People of all ages, silent, kneeling, standing, some in raw wool cloaks, others in simple cotton dresses. No logos, no brands, only white. At 7:20 p.m., the public lights of the city of Los Angeles below began to flicker, as if the electrical system itself were hesitating. Then, A signal sent by Novak Stry was received, and every phone flashlight in the circle lit up at once. Thousands of white lights rose like an inverted field of stars, rising from earth to sky. Each point was a soul, each soul a reflection. The helicopter began to ascend, and the drones rotated in wide circles, capturing the scene from every angle. The screens positioned along the perimeter broadcast live footage. Americana's face, her QR codes in perfect focus, filled the panels with surgical clarity. Her breath was visible, the pulse in her neck too. Over the entrance path, a corridor of light had been formed with digital torches on either side. That was where Americana would walk toward the base of the helicopter. A corridor of faith, a corridor of expectation. Americana stepped out of the limousine. The sun had vanished completely. The sky was now a dark blue veil, and the first star shone alone. She walked, silent. At her side, Medved, the ambassador of the Imperium in the common world, walked in a straight line. Behind her, Velasco, holding the tablet. When they reached the base of the helicopter, Medved secured an invisible steel cable, made of white textile nanotechnology, to the inner belt of Americana's overcoat. It was an anti-gravitational hoisting system, stabilized by suspended magnetism. "You will be lifted like a flag," said Medved. "Do not move. Just feel." Americana did not reply. She only nodded. Velasco stepped closer, adjusted the collar, let her fingers brush the tiny Saturn pendant resting against her neck, and said, "You were perfect. You were brave." The helicopter made a subtle sound. The ladder retracted. And then, with the activation of the hidden mechanism inside the cable, Americana began to rise. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:28 p.m. The safety cable was gently tensioned. No jolts, no mechanical noises. Novak Stry's advanced structure used electromagnetic fields to keep Americana's body suspended with millimetric balance, even against the wind from the rotors. Americana ascended slowly, being lifted along the helicopter's external ladder, but without touching the steps. An automatic anchoring system kept her legs steady, her spine upright, and her feet aligned as if hovering over invisible rungs. The crowd watched in silence. The white circle remained, lit. The flashlights from the phones formed a halo of light over Mount Lee. Seen from above, it looked like a giant crown awaiting its queen. Americana's white overcoat moved like cathedral curtains. The front slit swayed with the ascent, revealing flashes of white pants under the light of the rotors. The Saturn planet pendant around her neck reflected the lights from the drones, now rotating in slow motion around the rising figure. All over the world, simultaneous broadcasts took over the screens. Television channels, social networks, pirate forums, public towers, electronic billboards, traffic signs. Every eye was on Americana. The helicopter stabilized 50 meters above the ground, hovering with precision over the central letter of the Hollywood sign. The letter Y, the only one that splits. The one that opens to two possibilities. The ladder began to descend, no longer upward, but inward. The cable guided Americana like a needle entering a precise stitch. Novak Stry's mechanism made each centimeter of the descent lock into place with exactitude. The phone flashlights in the crowd intensified. The slope of Mount Lee lit up as if engulfed in white fire. And Americana descended, floating into the center of the letter Y. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:33 p.m. The Y of the Hollywood sign was now the altar. The lights of the city had vanished. Everything around was living shadow and points of light. The helicopter hovered with absolute precision, its rotors stirring the air like a ceremonial veil. The ladder descended to the platform, embedded in the inner stem of the letter. The final step was soft, as if destiny itself had caught the sole of her foot. Americana touched the ground. Her body leaned forward slightly, and the safety cable detached with a subtle click. A sensor recognized the contact and triggered the signal backstage. Americana, landing successful. From behind the structure of the letter emerged Medved and Velasco. Both moved quickly. Velasco gently removed the cable device and placed it into a hidden compartment inside his own clothing. Then he embraced Americana, tight, protective. "You were very brave, truly." Medved looked at Americana from behind his dark glasses. His body was armed, but his voice came out soft. "We'll see you on the other side." He nodded and stepped back, as if giving permission for the end of the earthly journey. Drones moved in. The camera zoomed in on Americana's face. Her smile was not one of triumph. It was one of surrender. The light from the tiara reflected like an orbital ring. The 3 marks on her face seemed to awaken under the pressure of the lens. Americana raised one hand. She waved to the world. And for 1 second, the entire world believed. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:36 p.m. The Hollywood sign, seen from above, was now a spiral of light and light. The letters shimmered under the vibration of drones and restrained voices. But no one shouted. It was as if every body gathered there understood that any word in that moment would be noise. Velasco delicately adjusted the front of the overcoat. He pulled an invisible thread near the waist and fixed the seam of the pants with a microlock of static gravity so that the fabric wouldn't tremble more than necessary. Then he said to Americana, "You are ready. You've told the world everything it needed to hear, without opening your mouth." She stepped away without turning his back. Medved activated a hidden button on the side of his holster. A green LED line ran across. It ground to the rear of the letter Y. It was the safe access route, invisible to the crowd, that would lead Americana to the final point. The jump, the seal, the destiny. Medved stepped closer. Final adjustments. "We'll see each other soon." He took 2 steps back. Americana took a deep breath. The wind was now nocturnal. She looked around. She waved with her right hand. The gesture was small, but it was enough for thousands of phones across Mount Lee to capture the image. The final close-up. The light on her face. The mouth slightly open in a half-smile. The last thing the common world would see. Monday, August 12, 2024 to 7:40 p.m. Behind the letter Y, protected by invisible optical barriers and elite soldiers in silent formation, embedded in the soil of Mount Lee, there was a jump chrono station. The structure was a ring of polished white metal. The ground around it was lit by hidden LED beams, giving the circle the appearance of a technological flower about to close. At the center, a mirrored surface vibrated gently, as if breathing. Americana walked to the edge of the opening. She was alone now. Behind her, the letters of Hollywood shimmered. She turned one last time. Through the gap between the letter Y and the sky, she could still see the sea of glowing flashlights. Thousands of points of light blinked in the distance, like a living constellation around the mount. She smiled, not because of what she felt, but because of what she wanted to leave behind. A memory, a silhouette, one final image that said, "I was." Then, without haste, Americana stepped forward. Her feet touched the edge of the jump chrono station. The ring emitted a brief, harmonic tone. In less than a second, a beam of white light enveloped her from head to toe. There was no explosion. There was no movement. There was no sound. Only a flash. White, full, total. Then Americana disappeared. From the outside, those watching from the base of the mount saw only a glow emerge behind the letter Y, as if the Hollywood sign itself had blinked. The lights around it flickered for a moment, and the silence that followed was not the absence of sound. It was reverence. Americana had crossed over. The Imperium had welcomed its new citizen, but the common world no longer possessed her. It would only feel that something precious had been taken from it. With beauty, with pain, with light. August 12, 2024 to 11:29 p.m. Excerpt from the comment feed of one of the spectators present at Not Lie. Beneath the Hollywood sign, it wasn't just a jump. It was a ritual. A crucifixion without a cross. A coronation without a throne. A symbolic death broadcast live so that Americana would cease to be an individual and become a symbol. Everything was meticulously calculated by the institutions of power, the Imperium bunker and Novak Stry. She didn't ascend by choice. She was hoisted. Americana stopped being an ordinary teenager. She became the inaugural icon of the new techno-theocratic empire, a saint of code offered at the altar of the global elite. She lost her autonomy. She gained a frame. She was displayed, delivered, consumed without a voice of her own. The innocent maiden becomes the initiated spokeswoman. Hollywood became a temple. The people, a cult. The limousine, a mobile altar. And the helicopter, the divine vehicle. The elite, the drones, the followers, the algorithms, all projected onto her their fears, their beliefs, their hopes. And in the end, Americana is no longer a person. She was a collective mirror, a programmed Americana,